Good afternoon, everyone. If you're new to the call, welcome. If you've joined us before, you know that once a month we get together with our favorite designer and feng shui stylist, Kate Troyer. Thanks for joining us again, Kate. In the past, we have covered topics like how to set up your home office, renovating your backyard, top 5 ways to maximize your renovation budget, renovating an investment property. So we've covered a bunch of topics, and when we post this later, there'll be a link to all of those videos in the comments below. And if you want to go binge our lifestyle series, we would love you to. When we're talking about renovations, we're always talking about two different types of renovations. So we're usually talking about either renovations that make your home feel more personal, more like it's your home, it's got your aesthetic, and or it functions for your family better. And then we're always talking about return on investment. What is this going to do for your investment into this property? How are you going to get that money back later? Today's topic kind of covers both. And so today we're going to talk a lot about floor plans and the energy throughout the house. And that's what we've got Kate for. And then, of course, if you're adding square footage, how that plays into everything. The way we live in our properties has changed dramatically. And so, you've heard us say it before, a lot of the houses on the market are older homes. They're 60 years or older. At least 60% of the homes are 60 years or older. And so think about how differently we live today than when that house was built. And now that's not more true than it has been the last 2 years, right? Think about how much has changed about how we all live in the last 2 years. Maybe now you're using your home as your home office, or you've had family move back in with you. So renovations are a great way to take that house, that home that you have that attachment to, and make it what you want it to be if you own a home now, or if you're out looking for a property. Of course, you can use renovations to make the property you can find into exactly what you're looking for. And so at Cross Country Mortgage, we have a suite of renovation products that will do that for you. My name is Victoria Dowling. I head up the renovation sales team, and we have 5 different renovation loans. So whether you own a home now and you're looking to get some renovations done, we have an option for you. We have several options for you. Or if you're out there looking to purchase and we know there's limited inventory, you can't find exactly what you're looking for, a renovation loan will give you the money to purchase and renovate. They're really flexible in what you can do. So definitely reach out to us if you're interested in hearing about those options. And as we go through our presentation today, we'll also talk a little bit about how renovation financing can help with each of the topics that we discuss. So, Kate, let's start. I know we're going to do something a little different today. We're really excited about it. Normally, we show you guys a slideshow that's got some lovely pictures to spark some ideas and some conversation. But today, Kate is going to walk us through a few floor plans.
Yeah, so all of the pressure is on me today. So
yeah,
hopefully I can deliver. That's our goal. So with what we wanted to talk about with floor plans, I wanted to kind of, share a little bit of information about a tool that I use when I am working one-on-one with my clients when we're looking at the energetic layout of their home, because this is a tool and it's just as important that we know kind of where these different energetic areas are of their home as we're making adjustments, as we are maybe removing walls or adding a garage or adding another bedroom. It's really important. We want to see how the energy of the floor plan is changing as well, so that we can make sure that we are optimizing that space for the client. So when I am looking at a floor plan, we'll say ideal floor plan that I like to see is either a rectangle or a square. And just to give you guys an idea, when I am looking at putting this energetic map on your home, it's going to look something like this. It's basically divided up into 9 quadrants. And now normally I would count all these out and make sure that they are perfect in 9 quadrants, but we're not going to take the time to quite do that today. So I'm going to get as close as I can. So be nice to me when it comes to my proportions here. I'm going to do my best. And thankfully this line redirects itself and makes it straight. Otherwise we'd really be in trouble. So when I'm looking at a floor plan, and again, our sections are a little bit off here, but this is basically what I'm doing with this floor plan. And the way that I'm going to lay my map is by where the front entrance is right here. So here's our front door. If you are not familiar with what a home energy map is, a lot of feng shui practitioners will refer to this as a bagua map, but I think that's a little much. I like home energy map because it's literally just telling us what energetics areas are part of our home. So some of people's favorite areas, as you can imagine, are this area up here in this, oh, I gotta move okay, I had to move our little bar here. This area here, which is known as your abundance area. So the back left area of your home, that's one that everyone always wants to talk about. And the second one that people always want to talk about and think is important is this area, the back right, which is your love and your relationships. So this could be your personal love life. It could be business partners. It could be people you're really close to. Those are the two biggest areas that as a practitioner and a home wellness expert, I get asked about most often. And I just want to mention that one of my favorite areas and one that I find, while they're all important, your center is a really important one too. This is an area that we want to kind of keep free of clutter. We might want to pay extra attention to if we have stairs in this area, because stairs increase the flow of energy. So if you're feeling a little exhausted or you have too much going on, see if you have stairs in the center of your home. That could be something that is causing the energy to kind of flow more rapidly throughout your space. So this is kind of ideally what we want to see. And again, you would place it by where the front door is. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, but you're curious and you think it sounds interesting, you can go to my website, which is this fengshui-kate.com. And there is an energy map download there that you can access. And it will give you a lot more information and kind of give you the basics on how to play around with it on your home. But I know a lot of what we wanted to talk about today. So if this is like our ideal energetic setup, right? What happens if we then take a square or a rectangle home and we add something to it? What happens to our energy map? Does it now become 2 energy maps? Or what happens in that circumstance? So in this case, we have a perfectly square home, which means if this would be our garage over here on the left. So here is our garage. Oh, I'm not sure I'm on the wrong thing, but oh well. So here's our garage over here. And so if this square were the perfect ideal, you'd have those same 9 quadrants in this square. Now we've added our garage, what happens? But before we talk about what happens, Victoria, I want to, give you the chance to talk about, are people adding a lot of garages now? Is this something that's typical that we're seeing often? And if so, how can cross country help us with that?
Yeah, those are great questions, Kate. So, with the renovation financing, we're seeing a lot of garages right now being requested. So, a part of that is there's such a limited inventory out there on the market, and you might not be able to find the house that has everything you want. And so, a garage can be part of that. So, you can definitely use a renovation loan to add a garage. Here we have an attached garage, that's perfectly fine. Most programs will also allow you to do a detached garage, depending on whether or not there's living space above. So definitely a popular renovation. And like I said before, we have 5 renovation loans. So we've got a whole suite of products that are going to help you accomplish your goal. And most of them will allow the garage to be added to them. So this is a great option for us right now.
Cool. So if we want to look at if this was originally our perfect energy map here, great energetic flow we have going on in our perfect square home, which, let's face us, most of us do not have. What happens when we have now used our renovation loan to add a garage? Because now we no longer have a perfect square. We have kind of this, like, what would you call this? Like a trapezoid or something, or not even a trapezoid. We have this different shape. So now we're looking at our map encompassing this entire area. And what you might notice is that there are a couple spaces that are now, quote unquote, missing from our energy map, right? So we've got like these two sections right here, and then we've got this little area in the back. We no longer have this perfect square. And that's totally okay. And I feel like it's typical for probably most homes in the United States, because we didn't build them with thinking about energy flow in mind, right? Which is totally cool. The thing that we want to make sure that we're doing is we want to square off these corners basically to make sure that we have a perfect square. And the way that we can do that there's several different things, but let's think about this. This is our garage. So we probably have a nice paved patio. Will our renovation cover this beautiful cement patio, or not patio,
Definitely.
but driveway here?
Driveway. Yep.
So we've got our
driveway.
driveway. So that doesn't necessarily square off this area, but it does help fill it in. It's used space, right? So that's helping to ground that area. It's not just empty. But what we could do, oh, that's right. Okay. What we can do are a couple different things. So let's say that if our leading up to our garage is right here, well, we want something nice and pretty to look at when we come in. So maybe we add a nice tree or some sort of bush or gardens or things like that on the corner. And, maybe we add some flowers or plants, or maybe just we fill this in with grass over here, just so that it's nice and pleasant when we come in. And then in our corner back here, again, this is our love and relationship area, right? And we want to do something with a nod to that. So maybe back here, let's just pretend that this is off of our master bedroom, and maybe we have doors that come out here. So instead of just leaving it as it is, we could put a nice little patio on the back, and then we could use this as a nice little place to have seating for two in the morning when we wake up and have our coffee. So that's a way that we could kind of square this area off, and also give it the intention that we are strengthening the love and relationship in our lives. And then same thing down here. Let's say we want it to be symmetrical, and we just add another tree over here, and maybe we can do some gardening and things over in this area, since this is our front door. So now we have a nice completed and square map.
Love that. And basically every renovation that you mentioned, we can cover with a renovation loan. So if you're putting in a new driveway, whether it's going to be paved, or you're using pavers that have a permeable surface, you can certainly use it to regrade your yard. So you wouldn't be able to use it to buy plants to plant, but you could definitely use it to get the area ready for plantings, or to put down sod or grass. And backyard patios, that's been really popular this year for people to add. I think in the last 2 years, lots of people have been using their homes more, and so you've needed to extend that living space as much as you can. So I love the idea of squaring off the back and adding something that makes it an extension of your living space and more usable space.
Exactly. And that's why this doesn't have to be this like magical, mystical thing, right? When we're talking about feng shui, it literally is like, how are you using your home, right? And based on how you use it, how do you want to utilize it? And then can you just use this tool, this energetic map, as a way to make even better enhancements, or not even better, but maybe more intentional enhancements? Like maybe if you didn't know that this was your love and relationship area, you wouldn't naturally think, oh, maybe we should put together a nice little space for us to sit in back here. So it just kind of allows you to be more intentional and to make the most out of your space. And it's like, to me, when I think about the fact that like, oh, these areas are now missing in my home, and ideally for the right energy flow, I want to square these areas off. I feel like it creates a little more sense of urgency to get projects done as well. Because let's face it, we've all been guilty of saying that we really want to do something to our homes, and we just never get around to it because life happens and everything else. This kind of like shows us, hey, these areas in your life might be lacking a little bit because you're not paying attention to them. So if you're paying attention and you're putting that intention into, properly utilizing and beautifying your space, it could make a big difference in your personal life too. So that's why I just think it's still fascinating to me to this day.
You always make it so easy to understand and so approachable. I didn't really, have as good an understanding of feng shui before, but every time you explain something, I'm like, yeah, that just makes sense. So thank you for
That makes
sharing
me
your
so
knowledge.
happy. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for listening. I love that you guys like want to listen to it. It makes me so excited. So as we can see here, we've got like, as you guys can imagine, we've got a lot of missing space here. And what's really nice about seeing these different floor plans is you guys are going to see that while a map ideally might be a rectangle, it can kind of get larger and it can contract depending on the space. But again, it's more of that shape that we're looking for is what's ideal. So we've got kind of this like L-shaped shotgun house here. Here is the front door, right? So we're actually, you guys will notice if you've been paying attention, we are actually entering probably in the abundance area of our home. And so that's something to be really mindful of. If we're entering into this area, one, this is a little bit more of a personal area. So we might want to be mindful about how people are entering into the space. And we want to make sure maybe we have a rug or something here, a place to set our things, just a moment for people to ground themselves. Something else we could do inside our home is just a couple quick little tips is adding a really nice piece of artwork. It doesn't have to actually be expensive, but when you look at it, it feels luxurious. It feels rich. That's something that you could do here as well, or just kind of having like those colors or finishes in this area inside your home, which I'm sure Victoria could help you out with as well, might be a good idea. But basically what you guys are going to see me do here is we really need to fill this area in. And I'm thinking, although we're entering from the front, I'm just going to go ahead and pretend though that like our driveway, I'm trying to think like if we're going to walk through here, where do we think our garage is at? Is this probably our garage here? I guess we can kind of say whatever we want, right? I'm trying to decide like, can we use this? Like, obviously I want to use this as some sort of patio space, but how does that make sense if this is like the front of our home? Maybe this is more of like an urban setting. Let's go with that. I kind of like that. So what we could maybe do here is one, if this is a little bit more of an urban setting home, like I think we need some privacy. And if this is basically the size of our lot, we want to add some sort of outdoor space. So my first thought is let's go ahead and add maybe a little bit of fencing here and on the side as well. So let's fill this in with fence. And then I would kind of like these two areas to be somewhat off of each other, but so you can get in one of these. We've got a gate somewhere, right? We'll just say we have a gate. And we want to make sure that we have a nice little pathway to our front door. So let's say that we're going to do this nice little pathway. Oh, we've got squares and circles. It's getting very artsy here. So here's our nice little, our pathway right to our house. But what else could we use this space for? I would love to say, hey, let's go ahead and put in a pool, but I'm not really sure that that's realistic for the size of the space that we have. But I think we could totally add a sitting area. This is our center again here. We've got our life path. I'm going to say we don't have a garage because this is more of like an urban space. So my thought is I would really like, since this is a little bit in the center, I'm thinking like, let's add maybe a nice area rug here. So we've kind of added like concrete, stone, some kind of patio, right, to this whole area. We've got a nice rug here just to help ground this area and the space. And then we've got a nice little, let's say we do like a table here, and we've got some chairs. So this is a space that we can all hang out outside and eat at. And then over here, maybe we have like an actual sitting area. Maybe we're able to put in a nice little fire pit, or even if we can't have a fire pit, we have maybe some sort of fire installation so that we've got a couple activities that we can do here. And then a good way to square off again. So we've already kind of squared off this area by adding like, you know, some fencing, but let's actually think about now, because a fence isn't necessarily pretty to look at. How can we make sure that this is aesthetically pleasing so that when we're entering the space and when guests are entering, they're like, ooh, wow, it feels so good in here, right? So I think adding maybe some tall grasses all along here would be really great. And maybe right here, we're able to do like a tall bush or a small little tree. And just kind of popping in some plants and greenery, I think everywhere would really, maybe we do some vining and things like that as well. But just think of this as an overall patio. And now we have not only squared off the space, but again, we've added we've added square footage to our home without having to do like this big add-on, but we've just utilized the space that we have and kind of beautified that.
And this is one of the great examples because it fits all the categories, right? Like this is going to make your house more functional for you and your family. It's going to reflect you and your family's design aesthetic, and it's going to add value. You know, we were just looking at one where somebody added a garage. Garages have a return on investment of around 65%. When it comes to curb appeal, that's got a return on investment somewhere a little bit lower, like around 5 to 10%. But it just changes the feel of your property. And one thing that we didn't talk about, Kate, but looking at this layout and the seating areas that are there, is they could also do like a shaded space, like maybe
Yeah,
a pergola or something like that. So with a
love
renovation
that.
financing too, anything that's permanently affixed to the property, we can make that part of the renovation. Um, so yeah, that's definitely something that we could fit in here too.
Yeah, I love the idea of a pergola. I think that sounds really fun and would be something over here. I mean, there's so many things you could do, right? What if I wanted to add like a water feature, for example? Is that something that a renovation would cover? Would it have to be permanently affixed? Like, what's that look like?
Exactly. So that's the key. It's got to be permanently affixed. So if it was something like, you know, digging out like a decorative pond, you could probably do something like that. If
Okay.
it's just, you know, something smaller that you're plugging in and putting down on the property, that you wouldn't be able to do. Same thing when it comes to lighting for the exterior. So if you're going to do some
Mm.
hardwired lighting, that's something that you could include in the renovation loan. As opposed to obviously, you know, you wouldn't need to anyway, but the solar lights that you could just kind of stick in the yard, those would be outside of it.
Well, I love that idea. And I think we're going to add wired pathway lighting here. And maybe we
All
don't
right.
have an exterior light. So I think we should add that there too. And maybe just some we've already hardwired, right? So like
Yeah.
having some over here by our trees and by this area, I think would be really nice. And they even have the ones now, I shouldn't say they have them now, they probably had them for a long time, but that you can get that, like, let's say that this was all like pavers, right? That like are kind of like flush with the pavers that look really cool. And you don't notice them as much during the day, and then at night they kind of come on and just like light a nice little path around the property. So I think those would be really nice in this area as well. So let's go ahead and look at our last floor plan. So as you'll see, this one kind of basically looks like the one we started with. And the idea that we want to talk about here is that we want to add an accessory dwelling. And I can't remember, were we adding one that was attached to the house or it was separate, right?
I think we're doing a detached one in this
That's
scenario.
what I was, yep, I think you are correct. So in that case, if we are adding a separate unit over here, does that change our energy map at all? And the answer is no, it doesn't, because it is not attached. The roof lines are not attached. So this would actually, this property that we decided to build back here is its own unit. And let's say that its door, its entrance is over here. So maybe, you know, I might be entering my main here, but I have my parents back here. And actually we have a detached garage all the way back here or something like that. And they're going to enter, boom, this way. Maybe our garage is over here, whatever. So this would actually have its own little map. And its map, without being too confusing, and I can answer questions afterwards, that is a horrible arrow, but its map would run this way, right? We would put it down this way, and the main house map would run like this. So when you're adding something, even if it was a shed or something like that to your property, that is now a part of your property's energetic map, but it's not changing the shape. So if it's separate, it's a completely separate, it gets a completely separate map. So let's talk a little bit about accessory dwellings. Should I assume that you're seeing a lot of this? Could this also be considered like a pool house? What really does that, what does that fall under?
Yeah, so accessory dwelling units, it started kind of on the West Coast being a big thing and a little bit on the Southeast, where people are taking mostly detached units and building them from scratch or converting maybe like a carriage house that had been there before and making it a unit. And they're using them for so many different things. So it could be another rental unit, it could be a single family with an accessory dwelling unit if your zoning allows it. It could be a pool house, it could be a guest house, it could be where you keep your home office. So there's lots of things that people are looking to use accessory dwelling units for, especially present day coming out of the pandemic. It's been really a very popular way to add square footage and value that's separate from your own property.
Cool. So I think that's all I have for here. We would obviously want to, oh, one thing I will mention, because, so we want new energy is coming to our home and into our home through our front door. I think on different webinars, we've talked about this depending on what the topic of conversation is, but I know we've talked about it before. And so if energy is entering my house here, right? And this is where all that main energy is coming in. And I have this accessory unit. Let's say that this is an in-law suite for me. So there are people living in this unit back here. So that means it's also important that energy is not only coming in this area of my home, but it also knows, oh, hey, I need to flow back here to this home as well. How are we sending it back there? And the way I like to think about it, so it doesn't sound so silly, is if you were having someone over to your home for the first time, and let's say that they were coming over to actually visit your in-laws, how did they know where to go? So as a human, how do I know that I'm not going, obviously they're like, oh yeah, we're at the other unit, but let's say that there's trees and things like that here, and it's not obvious where this other unit is. So we want to make sure that we're creating some sort of path, or we're leading people to this new area, because that's exactly how energy would see and then flow into that space. So let's say that maybe, along with the renovation of adding this separate unit, we also maybe want to build in some sort of landscaping and hardscaping into this to make sure that that flow not only enters here, but it also makes its way back around to the secondary home. So that might look like maybe we add some sort of walkway, that comes off of the main walkway here, and then it kind of meanders around back this way and then comes over here. So now we've kind of set the tone of, oh, hey, I can go this way too. Maybe if you park over here, we've got, it kind of meanders around this way. And again, we can add in nice, beautiful hardwired lights to light this path in case you come over at night. And we could also make sure that we are, adding a little bit of extra to this entrance. So maybe we do some nice like plants here, and we just really make it feel lush and welcoming, not only for the energy coming into our space, but also for when people come over. And that way we're helping to direct someone new coming to that space so that they're not confused and they know exactly where to go.
Love it. And with the accessory dwelling units, the one that we see that's most popular is a totally detached unit. And so right now there are a few different programs that would allow you to do a detached accessory dwelling unit, our Fannie Mae Home Style, our Freddie Choice Renovation. If you're going to have an attached accessory dwelling unit, you'd want to do that through one of our government renovation loans. So these are such a hot topic right now. Local zoning offices are talking about them all the time. They're encouraging people to build these, and they do have a pretty good return on investment. So an accessory dwelling unit is probably going to cost, depending on what you're doing, somewhere between 350 and 500 per square foot, and it's going to add 50 to 80% to your return on investment. Yeah, and it really depends on what's going on in your particular market. These are really popping up on the West Coast the most, but we are starting to see them pop up in other parts of the country. It's just a really great way to either add income or have family move in with you, but not have them on top of you in your own space. Or now that so many of us are remote workers, maybe you do want a separate space for your home office. Kate, I've got to imagine that's probably going to be a little bit better for energy, right? If you're leaving the home to go to the separate dwelling space as opposed to having it in your house, or does that matter, do you think?
I think it depends. I really think it depends on your situation. What sort of work are you doing? If you have, like, let's say that you do have a work from home business and you are very active in that business, but you don't really have a great home office space. Maybe you don't have an office space and you're like shoved in a corner, right? Also, if you are having your business requires you to have clients come to you, it depends. Some people might like having people in their home, right? As like part of that, and they have a separate space. But if you don't, and you're like, I really want to keep like business energy and personal energy separate because I'm more private and I don't like other people's energy in my home when it comes to, people outside of family and friends. So I really think it depends. Also, do you have two people working from home and the two people working from home are in complete disturbance of each other? Maybe both jobs are quiet, but maybe one is very active and on the phone all the time, and the other one is more contemplative, but they have to be right beside each other, or they have to share the same space. That might pose a problem where adding that office would be huge and would not only change the energy of that office space and make it better, but would change the energy of the home. So that's something too to think about. I know personally, my significant other is a loan officer for cross country. I am much more like, I do work with clients and I do interviews and I teach and things like that. So I am talking, but like, I feel like what I'm talking about is just much more like flowy and soft, and it's just a completely different energy than being on the phone most of the day talking about mortgages. And so that's something that him and I, when we're both at home on the same day, like we have to be very conscious of the energy that we're sharing, because my energy sometimes is maybe like too soft and like and relaxed for him, and he's like da, 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 sales, say, you know, like he's in sales mode. So it's really interesting how like our dynamic changes, and sometimes we have to like, I maybe have to put like soothing music on to kind of drown him out, because our offices share a wall, you know, and just sometimes I have to just stay away from him, or vice versa, because our energies at work are completely different.
That's so funny. Well, obviously, I'm on the loan officer side. My husband and I have shared an office for the last 8 years, even before the pandemic happened. So, yes, I think that he would be happy to have a wall between us sometimes. And I'm like, is there room in our backyard? Could we build this out? But that's a great point. Yeah, because it depends on the energy that you have in the room and how much space that energy needs. Which again makes perfect sense when you describe it that way. You've got two different personalities or jobs going on, you might need that space. So super popular ADUs are coming up everywhere. People are also using them a lot for rentals. Does that change anything, Kate, if it's two different families? I mean, I know we've got two different energy maps, so
No,
that should.
Yep, it would stay the same. You've both got your two separate energy maps because they aren't attached. Now, if they were attached, we won't go super crazy into this because it could get a little confusing if you're completely new to this, and I don't want to turn you off to it. But if it is attached and it's sharing a roof, basically for the owner, there would be, I would honestly have like 3 maps, right? So if these were actually attached, let's say like this, and I'm just going to get sloppy here because we're just for reference. But so this house would have a map, this area would have a map, and then this as a whole, I would actually map all 3. Ideally, some practitioners might do it differently and would just do separate ones, because you kind of think of it, you know, this person that lives back here, they only care about their map. They don't care about yours. They don't care about the whole thing. Think about it. If you live in an apartment building, you just care about your apartment. And where the door is to enter your apartment is how you would lay your map down, how you would use that. However, the person that owns the apartment building cares about the building in its entirety. And maybe if they have an office at the apartment building, they also care about that office space as well. So that's kind of what that would look like if the units were attached and you were the owner of that property. You might want to look at the energetics of everything together and then separately, just to make sure that, you know, just to see if there's anything going on there, especially if you have some things going on in your life that are less than ideal. That would be something I would want to look at. Oh, hey, what's going on here with this other unit?
I love that. Super approachable as always. Love thinking about that. Again, guys, we've talked about so many different topics. Check us out, our lifestyle series. We've got a page with all of them up. And we'd love to take any questions that you guys have about what a renovation loan can do, or to Kate on how the flow of the energy works. Do we have any questions out there?
All right. So we actually have a couple. And the first goes to you, Ms. Victoria. So I know that we kind of covered this, but I'll go ahead and ask a little bit more. Does a patio need to be attached to the house, or could it be out in the backyard to qualify for a renovation loan?
That's a great question. Yeah, it can be out in the backyard. And even the pergola can be. It's just got to be permanently affixed to the property, to the land. So maybe you're having a pool put in. Obviously, that's not going to be the first thing that happens when you step outside your house. Maybe you're having a pool put in and it's got a patio around it. You could definitely do that. Or you could do a separate patio out there. You know, we've got a great webinar where we talk about outdoor renovations and different outdoor renovations that you can do. But you could put in an outdoor kitchen, build a pergola, build a patio. You've got a lot of flexibility in what you can do.
Excellent. How about a fire pit addition? Does it cover a fire pit?
As long as it's something that's gonna be permanently affixed. So there are some really great fire pits that are gas, right? That maybe need a gas line, and are gonna be permanently affixed. You know, certainly if you're buying like a $150 fire pit from Home Depot or Lowe's, that's not gonna fly. It's gotta be something that is truly being installed on the property.
Wonderful. All right. And last on the renovation questions, how about redoing or fixing a deck? So one that's already been built, attached to the home, but it's just needs a little bit of a zhuzh.
Yeah, we've actually been getting this one a lot. This has been another really popular renovation that's been happening. And I think part of the reason is that, you know, with the uncertainty of the pandemic and people's jobs, maybe people weren't throwing money into their outdoor space, but at the same time, they needed to be able to use it. And so we're seeing a lot of listings that have decks that are in disrepair, and we get this renovation added all the time. It's a great way to add extra usable outdoor space to the property, add extra value, and make the home more functional for you and your family.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. All right, next question. Is there an application or website you suggest to create floor plans that is compatible with Windows and or Android?
Yes. So there is a really great software that I use. I think it's like 35 bucks a month. You may be able to do like a free trial of it if you just need to put something together quick, but I use design files. And there you can make mood boards and vision boards, but you can also create floor plans. And for me, even though I do, do and have done interior design as well, I never wanted to be like an architect or get super crazy with the mathematics side of things. So if I am doing something like that, I'm going to use an architect, right? Or someone that can draw out a more detailed floor plan. But when I'm working with clients, just to do like one room spaces or something like that, I'll measure it out and put it in design files. You're able to pop in windows, doors, and you can choose the sizes for all of those as well. So it makes it, and what I love about it is, for me, someone that like is not into, like, I don't have that type of brain. I'm much more like flowy and creative. It's made it extremely easy for me to share with clients. And I don't have to, I just have to take measurements, pop them in, and it makes it really simple. And what's even cooler is that if you need it for this at all, you can pop furniture and things like that and change the sizes of those things as well to see how it will fit in your space. So that's pretty cool too.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so it looks like our last question is about the energy. Are there other energy areas other than the abundance, love, and relationships?
Yes, there are 9 areas. And if you want to dive in a little bit further, I'll tell you what they are. But if you want to dive a little bit deeper and you're curious about this, again, you can go to my website and I have a guide that you can download there. And it's not just the map, it will tell you how to use it. And there's also a third page that is like a key that tells you what each area represents, why it represents that, and then different colors, home decor objects that you can use within those spaces to square them off, to enhance them, to be intentional, all of that good stuff. And with that being said, anything that I suggest is a suggestion. Always use your intuition and what feels good to you with intention. But so there are 9 areas, right? So the first one here is wisdom. And then here is health and new beginnings. Then we have abundance in the back left. Our middle back is fame and reputation. So if you're trying to get recognized for something. Love and relationship is the back right corner. Over here, we have what I consider your inner child. This also deals with creativity. So think about this as like the way a child, or when you were a child, the way you looked at the world with like this endless possibilities, this uncensored creativity, whether you thought you were creative or not. That's kind of what this represents, right? Is like how you're looking at the world and allowing yourself to play within it. Here is helpful people and synchronicities. In the front, we have our life path, and then in the middle, we have our center.
Alrighty. And looks like at the time, that is all of our questions for today.
All right, well, thank you so much for everyone for joining us. I'm sure we'll be sending out information about our next call soon and our newsletter. And if you guys ever have any questions, if you've got an idea for a topic we should cover, or you have questions about renovation financing or about feng shui, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
You guys, thank you.